The feeling after Saturday's win at Northwestern sure feels different than the feeling after the first two victories of the season, but I believe there's more positives than negatives, certainly, to take out of just a mere 20-point victory on the road in the Big Ten opener. Plus, I'll be handing out some Week 3 Holy Wallowa Awards. That show out west starts right now.
This place has everything. In fact, the grass is damn green in Eugene.
That performance deserves a Holy Wallowa.
It's a feeling you cannot explain.
This place is louder than any other venue in the Big Ten.
This program is staged to compete and to win championships.
Welcome to the Big Ten, Oregon.
And welcome to That Show Out West. For that team out west, I'm Ted the Brew. Happy Monday. Happy Victory Monday, happy 3-0 Monday, and happy Civil War Monday. The Ducks and the Beavers set to renew a rivalry this Saturday inside Autzen Stadium, but more on that on Thursday's preview show. High expectations. We saw both sides of high expectations leading up to this game against Northwestern, and then maybe coming out of this game against Northwestern. A lot of the national media were starting to adopt higher expectations for the Ducks than they had coming into the season after the romps of FCS Montana State and really after the utter beatdown against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. People are saying, or Joel Klatt out there saying, quote, Oregon might win it all when all is said and done. But like I kind of said at the beginning, maybe a little bit of a different feeling coming out of this, specifically within this Oregon fan base. And you can tell just the high expectations that Duck fans, and they should, and we should have high expectations for this team every single year. Dan Lanning has built this program to have those type of expectations as the program continues to take steps up the ladder. But this was a team. This was an Oregon team that was up 34-0 over Northwestern in this game, in the Big Ten opener on the road with a very young team. And I know the score, of course, ended up being 34-14, so maybe a little bit of a different picture once the 60 minutes were completed than when it was earlier in the game when they had Northwestern at a goose egg. But when you have that type of game like the Ducks did on Saturday, overall, I thought it was a pretty good performance. Rewatching this game on Sunday, I felt a lot better coming out of the rewatch than I did watching the game live, maybe. But to have that type of reaction after that type of game from segments of this Oregon fan base, I think it just goes to show the high expectations that exist, that continue to maybe climb up the ladder from Duck fans out there. But that is a good thing. You want to be able to achieve that gold standard. You should have that standard. Dan Lanning talks about the Oregon standard, and you need to be able to live up to that. That's the only way that you can be a championship team. The Ducks dropping from number 4 in the AP poll to number 6. Maybe a little bit of maybe let's come back down to earth and maybe realize what this team is going to be. I think we're going to learn a lot more from this game against Northwestern than we did the previous 2 weeks. But more on that a little bit later on in the program. We are kicking off this Monday edition of the program, chatting about something we usually kick off with on Thursday shows. Helmets, jerseys, pants, cleats, the upcoming uniform combination. Normally, the Oregon creative staff does their uniform reveal drop later in the day on Wednesday for what this team is going to be wearing on Saturday, but we got a special one yesterday, didn't we? We got a special one on Sunday afternoon. Not just special because of the absolute fire design, but special because of what this one means to people who have been following this program. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Shoe Duck uniform, honoring and commemorating the legacy and contributions of one Phil Knight to the University of Oregon, Oregon athletics, and of course, Oregon football. We know what Phil means to this program and what his contributions have done to elevate this program to an entirely new level. Like, this was a middle-of-the-road Pac-10 program. And then when Phil and Nike really poured their investment into this team, you saw they become one of the elite brands in all of college football. I mean, these all blacks with the white numbers, the white helmets, and the gold accent as well. I mean, man, you just cannot love these enough. You can't love these enough. What an excellent job. I can't go any further talking about this uniform without giving a major shout out to the folks over at Van Horn Brands. I was talking to Quinn Van Horn offline about something the other day and found out that Quinn, he is a listener, he is a viewer, he is a consumer of the show. So salute to you, Quinn, and you guys just continue to do an awesome job. They are entrenched with a lot of design projects over there at the University of Oregon. They're involved with the 2.0 project, so they're doing great things. They're doing great things with the brand and what people see that really attracts the eyes of people to the University of Oregon and Oregon football. And, of course, this uniform also commemorates the support that Phil and Penny Knight have put in over the years as well. You've got a matte marble helmet, and I was giving a shout-out to the Van Horns before when talking about the gold accent. Here's what Quinn had to say, quote, "We felt gold was appropriate in that it's fitting for Nike, the wing goddess of victory, and Oregon representing the gold standard." So let's talk about the winged goddess of victory for a minute. If you look at the helmet here, you can see one side, it looks like the normal wings. The other side is reminiscent of the statue and the carving of the winged goddess of victory, that, of course, being Nike. So once again, we come back to the Easter eggs. We come back to the small details. On one shoulder, you have two hands shaking that commemorates the handshake agreement between one Phil Knight and his track coach at the time, Bill Bowerman, to create what was Blue Ribbon Sports that would eventually become Nike, one of the industry leaders in sports and apparel. On one shoulder, you have Mount Hood and Mount Fiji with mirror images of each other. You've got like little tiger stripes and tigers, such emblems across that really tells a story about how important Japan was in the evolution of Nike, certainly throughout the years. So there are so many stories to be told. There's a press release over on the Oregon website. There are videos out there. The Van Horns did a really good podcast with Travis Brookley and Zach Neal over there at Ducks Rising. So go check that out for more details and more of the stories over there. But awesome uniform. Where does it stack up in my uniform power rankings? It's going to be hard to beat this one, folks. It's going to be hard to beat this one. I mean, just with the amount of detail and stories that are told, I think that's the one that's going to make this one stand out, I think, as much as it does right now. And boy, more white helmets in the future. Oregon hasn't worn as many white helmets in the future, but I love the way that the white and the gold certainly stand out in this one. This is as good of a black uniform. You know, hey, you guys know I love the contrasting colors, color 1, color 2, color 1, color 2, but which I think it says a lot that this one is number 1 in my new uniform power rankings, considering how I usually like the colors to shape out on the uniform. And look, I love green and yellow. I love those colors. So once again, it goes to show the amount of detail and the amount of work and how good this uniform is that I've got at number 1. Of course, number 2 in my power rankings, I've got the Week 3 uniform that they wore against Northwestern. Number 3, I've got the Week 1 uniform. And then at number 4, I've got the all-green uniforms that they wore in Week number 2 against Oklahoma State. Good luck. Good luck topping that one, because this uniform means a lot to a lot of people that have been following this program over the years. I've gone on record saying I think one of the most underrated things that Dan Lanning does well running and maintaining his program, he does a lot well running and maintaining this program, is surrounding himself with really good people, specifically hiring really good assistant coaches. And he did a great job retaining this coaching staff from last season. I mean, considering they went 12-0 during the regular season, won the Big Ten championship in their first year. That's usually, at a top program like Oregon, that's usually a recipe for losing a coordinator, maybe losing both of your coordinators, losing a handful of position coaches that are looking to make that next step up in their career. But Junior Adams left to be the wide receivers coach with the NFL's Dallas Cowboys. Mike Cavanaugh became the head offensive line coach at Oregon State. Other than that, there's a lot of familiar faces back for this 25 season. aren't there? And it is in Dan Lanning's best interest to create his own type of coaching tree and really get these guys to good opportunities and the right opportunities. But I think that's where I want to focus on with this next segment, is the right opportunity. There's a lot of things that people can learn right now at Oregon. And Oregon is a great spot to be able to develop as an assistant coach, to maybe make that journey up to from be a position coach to a coordinator, or to be a coordinator to eventually become a head coach. But the key is, don't jump for any job. The key is jumping for the right job. Over this past weekend, UCLA fired Deshaun Foster. Virginia Tech fired Brent Pry. And what happens when these firings happen, whether it's early in the season, middle of the season, late in the season? Hot boards. Hot board season in Westwood. Hot board season in Blacksburg, Virginia. And you find Oregon's two coordinators finding themselves onto these hot boards early. On threes, Pete Nakos has Tosh Lupoi and Will Stein, both among 6 potential candidates for the UCLA opening. CBS Sports has Tosh listed as one of 5 candidates for the UCLA job right now. Bruce Feldman listed Stein as a contender for the Virginia Tech opening. And this isn't about Virginia Tech. This isn't maybe about any other jobs other than the UCLA opening right now. There's the message to Will Stein and Tosh Lupoi in regards to the UCLA opening. Look, I get it. It's a Big Ten job. You're in LA. You play in the Rose Bowl. But you both deserve better than the UCLA Bruins right now. UCLA is an absolute dumpster fire. This from Brett McMurphy. Quote, next coach, the better story is who would take that job. Chip Kelly ran for a reason, a source told McMurphy. Terrible administration, no resources, they're going to get crushed, no NIL, and currently no chance to compete in Big Ten football. Those are some strong words about the current state of the Bruins program. Look, I think when you leave to be a head coach somewhere, especially in today's day and age, you want to be able to go somewhere where you can drum up a lot of fan support early, where you can get a lot of people to invest money and to invest dollars into the program, not only from a booster or an NIL standpoint, but from an administration standpoint. And like the source said, according to Brett there's just not the support. Over the years, this is a UCLA program that has not gone full in. They have not gone full go into football. And for coaches that are as good as Oregon's coordinators right now, you do not want to go into that well, because that's exactly what it is. I think if you become the head coach at UCLA, is you go straight down into a well. You might think a program in Los Angeles playing in the Rose Bowl, like I said before, would have a lot of potential to it. But considering that program does not have the administrative support right now, and look at what USC is doing from a recruiting standpoint, like USC and Oregon, those two teams are going to be able to get the best local West Coast recruits. They are in a tier by themselves. UCLA, Washington, maybe you could throw Utah is in that next tier. So, Will, if you're kind of looking, or whoever becomes the head coach at UCLA, if you're looking to build that program into a program that can recruit great West Coast kids and attract some of those type of local talent, it's just not going to happen in the current landscape of things. So you're always going to be getting second-tier type of players on the West Coast out there at UCLA. And, follow in the footsteps of your head coach. Follow in the footsteps of Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning was a coordinator, I believe, for 3 seasons at Georgia before he took the Oregon job. When he took the Oregon job, considering what Mike Bellani built it into, Chip Kelly built it into, Mario Cristobal, of course, built it into, that was a really good job at the time, and which we knew had a lot of resources. A coach like Dan was going to be able to have success at that type of job. If you're Will Stein, if you're Tosh Lupoi, you're in a real good situation at Oregon. You are in a championship window. There is a chance to make history right here at Oregon. If you're going to jump for a job, jump for a good job. Jump for a job that has support. Jump for a job that can fill a stadium, right? Florida is one out there that's been mentioned after the They lost to USF for Billy Napier. Like, that's an atmosphere down there in the swamp that's as good as it gets. That is a program that has historically been able to field really good teams. That is a program where people are going to invest into that team. That's the type of job that you jump for. You don't jump for a UCLA. You don't even jump for a Virginia Tech, I believe, right now, considering the way that program looks in this point in time. So it is in the best interest for a lot of these coaches to become head coaches and have success. That's the key. That's the key. You want them to have success because then it shows other assistant coaches to be like, hey, I can go to Oregon. I can put in my time for a year. I can put in my time for 2 years. I can put in my time for 3 years and vault myself to become a head coach and a good head coach in a good situation. That's been proven before. Will Stein, Tosh, you guys are much better than Westwood. Hey, what do you say we hand out some hardware from the Week 3 game against Northwestern with our weekly Holy Wallowa Awards? As per usual, let's begin with our honorable mentions. 4 players on the defensive side of the ball, 3 players on the offensive side of the ball. I want to make sure I give a shout out to a guy that's been playing really sound and really good football so far this season. And that's Aaron Flowers at safety, next to Dylan Thieneman. He had his best game of as a Duck on Saturday, 7 tackles, including 2 solo tackles against the Wildcats. He was all around the football. And he's one of those safeties, and maybe it's because Oregon hasn't really been tested over the top, but there's a lot of safeties right now for the Ducks that have been playing closer to the line of scrimmage, that have been really good at taking the right angles, making sure tackles. We saw Dylan Thieneman last week maybe playing more consistently closer to the line of scrimmage. We've seen Kingston Lopa absolutely lay the lumber on a couple of plays this season. But speaking of Kingston, like Kingston Lopa was penciled in as that starter next to Thieneman for a lot of people at the beginning of fall camp. And Aaron Flowers did a great job performing as well as he did in fall camp, taking that job, earning that job. And once he's been on the field, he's been all over the football. He's been near the ball. He's been making good plays. He's been assignment sound. I love the way that Aaron Flowers is playing right now at that safety spot next to Dylan Thieneman. So shout out to you, sir. Bryce Betcher, 5 tackles, a half a tackle for loss, a PBU and an INT. He was around the ball. I mean, he could have had a couple of interceptions in this game, but Bryce doing just what Bryce does at this point in the year. Mateo Uyunglele had 3 tackles, and that sack, that was a dirty spin move. That was a good-looking spin move. So he's obviously one of the best pass rushers in all of college football, and I believe like the pass rush hasn't been able to really unleash as much because, I mean, Montana State wanted to run the ball, and they ran a lot of those short crossers. Oregon just absolutely dominated against Oklahoma State, of course, and they didn't get a lot of opportunities to maybe have as much time to unleash that passing game a little bit down the field like they would have liked to. And then Northwestern is a team that was very run first in their approach. Maybe, once we get later on in the season when, for example, like Aaron Flowers and those safeties are going to get tested over the top, maybe that will allow someone like Mateo to get home a lot more. But he got that sack in that one, and that looked really nice. That was the best-looking sack of the year. That's his 3rd sack on the season. In as many games, he's on pace for 12. That would eclipse last year's 10.5 that he had last season. Let's see if Mateo can keep it going. And I think he's becoming more of a complete player. He said in some of the interviews before the season, hey, I wanted to get better at being able to defend the run, and I think we've seen that, at least so far, from Mateo this season. Sticking on the defensive line, look, Bear Alexander, man, he's playing good ball. He's playing really good football. I think he's become a reliable player in both run situations and pass situations. He's driving guys back now. There are some plays where he gets knocked off the line of scrimmage, but it's a rarity when he does that. The effort is there, and he's a really reliable and solid player in that defensive line rotation. Based on what I've seen on film, outside of Amari Washington, he seems like the next best player in that room. I know Tion Gray and Terrence Green are big bodies in the middle there, but when it comes to making some of those havoc plays and making disruptions, maybe he doesn't make the tackle every time, but he's pushing guys back, and you can see him playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage on some of these tape. It is back-to-back weeks with 5 tackles. He's starting to sniff out the football a lot more. He's got 12 tackles this season. That is 5th on the Ducks right now. Let's move to the offensive side of the ball. Malik Benson and Decorian Moore are just becoming reliable targets. They combined for 8 catches and 111 yards this past weekend. These are clearly the top 2 guys that Dante is continuously looking to. You can tell that that's where his eyes are going. Like that great throw that Dante had on the run where he's finding Malik right in the right spot on the sideline, making that grab. These are becoming reliable targets in this offense, and they just continue. They do it week after week after week, and they're kind of putting out similar performances now, and they're stacking performances on top of performances. These were the top 2 pass catchers for Oregon. But another pass catcher I thought that did pretty good. Did not have as good of maybe a blocking performance as we've seen in weeks past, that being Kenyon Sadiq. But he did have a very key block to be able to spring D'Air Hill's 66-yard touchdown run. Key figure in the passing game early, getting open in the end zone to get that last touchdown of the first half. 2 catches, 35 yards, and a score for one Kenyon Sadiq on Saturday. Now let's hand out some hardware. I have 3 guys, 2 on the offensive side of the ball and 1 on the defensive side of the ball that are taking home my Holy Wallowa winners of the week. And let's make it 3 in a row for old Mr. Moore, number 5. It's just like every week he kind of just shows something different. Every week he kind of shows a little bit more. Week 1, it was all about the confidence that he played with coming out right in the season. Week 2, it was about his accuracy on the deep ball and being able to stretch the field and making those really nice throws and those explosive plays down there. In week 3, in game number 3 for Dante Moore, it was all about the poise that he played with. And when this Ducks offense maybe wasn't absolutely clicking, specifically in the run game earlier in this matchup, he sparked the offense. Because not every day you go out, you're going to have your best performance. But if Dante can consistently put out this type of game when maybe the rest of the offense isn't playing at an ultra-high level, I know not having Noah Whittington maybe had a little bit of an effect on that, but he just continues to make all the right decisions. I know he had that interception, his first interception of the season, but I mean, maybe the wind had something to play with that, taking a shot, whatever. You know, hey, there's a lot worse interception. He's still making wow throws. I mentioned before that throw on the sideline to Malik Benson. So when the rest of the team maybe isn't having their best day, Dante still has a damn good day. 16 of 20, 178 yards, a touchdown, and an interception as well. But more on Dante a little bit later on during the program. I want to talk about D'Air Hill. 5 carries, 94 yards, and a touchdown. He had a similar stat line to what Noah Whittington had last week. And when I talked about Noah Whittington last week, I said, man, if you get him 10 carries, if you get him 12 carries, if you get him 15 carries, he's going for 150. He might go close for 200. And it's just like every time D'Air touches the ball, it turns to gold. This guy needs more carries. This guy needs to be consistently more involved in the offense, like specifically that 66-yard touchdown run. Now, I know a lot of the yardage came on one run, and that's fine. But he's shown the ability to maybe be the most explosive option in Oregon's run game. I think specifically about that run, he allows his blockers the patience. He allows his blockers to get out in front of them. And then when Kenyon Sadiq is able to get that block, he just shifts it into multiple gears forward. His explosiveness through the hole is ultra elite. I thought he had a really good game. And this is maybe more about me saying that D'Air needs to be more involved in the offense. He might be the most talented back that Oregon has on the roster. And that's saying a lot considering that he is a true freshman. Let's talk about Jerry Mixon. Jerry Mixon has been playing really good ball as of late. You know, before I was talking about the safeties. I was talking about, hey, it looked like Lopa was penciled in over Aaron Flowers, but then Aaron Flowers went out there and won that job. during fall camp, Devin Jackson, at linebacker, he was a little bit banged up, and that was a guy that was penciled to start next to Bryce Betcher. But Jerry Mixon took advantage of his opportunity. I thought he played really well and showed a lot of really good things in the spring game. And then he's translated all of that to what he's been doing in practice onto the game field. And in practice, he's just flat out taking the ball away.
Starts in practice, man. He's ball savvy. Seems like he's always in the right place at the right time in the pass game, which is, incredible. I've never seen someone with more interceptions in practice before, and it shows up on game day. So it's cool to see, what he does in practice show up, and I'm looking forward to see what he does next week.
Jerry gets a bunch of those in practice, and it's because he makes you think that he can't make the play, and then he does an unbelievable job breaking on the ball.
I think that just goes back to the ball skills of me playing running back. Also, just being a Mixon last name, I think that plays a part of it. Our instincts. Just doing that every day in practice gives me confidence in the game to go out there and do the same stuff.
That's Bryce Betcher, Dan Lanning, and Jerry himself talking about it. You can tell, he's been in this program for multiple years, and he's got kind of that veteran mindset and, that savvy veteran play. He's really intelligent and really smart. And then you combine that with his athleticism and what he's doing, back-to-back weeks with interceptions, 5 tackles, a TFL, and an INT, and he's just always around the football. I posted this on Twitter. I freaking love Jerry Mixon. I think he is certainly entrenched as the number 2 linebacker next to Bryce Betcher. There is no question. I know, hey, maybe Devin Jackson is maybe going to work his way back into the role. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it is Jerry Mixon's role right now, and I think there is an argument that Jerry Mixon is the best performing linebacker on this team right now. That is a huge example of duck development. He was like a 800-something overall player in his recruiting class. He was a 3-star player, kept getting better and better and better each year in this program, and now it's paying off this season. I love watching Jerry. He's been a big part to this Oregon defense thus far. Jerry Mixon, De'Aaron Hill, Dante Moore all deserve a Holy Wallowa for this week. Coming into this season, there was a big-time focus. There was a big-time emphasis on the defensive side of the ball. Getting better and staying better at playing against the run. Dan Lanning talked about it in fall camp leading up to the season. Bryce Betcher talked about it in fall camp and leading up to the season. We all know the way last season ended. That was an Achilles heel of this defense. Penn State rushing for over 300 yards in the Big Ten Championship, although the Ducks were successful on that particular night in Indianapolis. And then Ohio State getting some explosive runs that certainly led to the result that was on January 1st within the Rose Bowl. We knew that that's a part of the defense that needed to get better for them to rise to that championship level defense that's needed. You need to do it in the Big Ten. You need to stop the run, and you need to be able to do that to make a run to be the last team standing. Now we advance to Saturday. It's week 3. It's the first Big Ten game of the season. And the Northwestern Wildcats, one of the least talented teams probably in the Big Ten, rushed for 178 yards against this Ducks rushing defense. And a lot of people, it certainly wasn't an A-plus performance all the way around like we've seen the first 2 weeks for this Ducks team. But I think the biggest concern people are taking out of that is, well, here we go again with the run defense. This is a run defense that maybe hasn't improved as much, and that's something that needs to be better, certainly as time goes on. But watching the game live on Saturday and then doing my rewatch on Sunday, as with kind of a lot of parts of this game, I have different takeaways from Saturday night to Sunday night and now eventually Monday on how exactly I kind of view the rushing defense right now. What is my concern level? Let's jump right into it. First thing I want to say right off the bat, Northwestern is a pain in the ass to play, especially the first Big Ten challenge for Oregon and this young defense, specifically some new guys up front in the defensive line that are going their first go against the biggest offensive line that they faced off against. I'm not trying to use this first talking point as an excuse, but ask like Ohio State last year. That was a 31-7 game out there at Wrigley Field. A couple of years ago, Penn State, they needed a couple of cranks on the lawnmower to really get going. It's just, even for really good championship level teams, it's not easy to play this game or to play this team, especially in the type of environment. I mean, this was the first time Oregon's going out to Northwestern. It's the first time they're really going out for a 9 a.m. Pacific time. I thought maybe it wouldn't be as big of a deal because they've been practicing that time, but I think early on, in my rewatch, and I kind of rewound a couple of plays, I think it was clear that there was a lack of energy and explosiveness, I think, on all sides of the ball. But I'm looking at the defensive line. They're just, early on, they weren't firing off as fast. Linebackers weren't hitting the gap certainly as fast as they did in previous games at Autzen Stadium. So I think it was clear that was something that maybe the Ducks really needed to get settled in with. That was something I think that was very clearly a little bit of an issue early on. It's just, they're a scrappy bunch. It's just not easy. It's not easy to play Northwestern for some reason, even if you're a team as talented as the Oregon Ducks. And like, getting back to my rewatch, I thought that the Oregon defensive line and like some parts of the defense, I thought there were good plays. They got into the backfield. They did play on the other side of the line of scrimmage at times, but at other times they did get driven off the ball. I thought it was more inconsistent than anything. I thought you saw, hey, some good plays here, maybe not some good plays there. Here's, I think, something that maybe paints the picture of the inconsistency as it pertains to the run defense. First drive of the first quarter. Northwestern rushed for 35 yards on that drive. The first drive of the third quarter, coming out of the locker room at halftime. Northwestern rushed for 26 yards. And, of course, you had the Deshaun Reeder 79-yard touchdown run in garbage time. You take out those three situations, okay? Northwestern rushed the ball for 38 yards the rest of the game. Now, I know they maybe threw the ball a little bit when they were behind a little bit more. Maybe they didn't have there weren't as many possessions because Northwestern was kind of milking the clock a little bit. But overall, I thought there were some good things. I thought there were some bad things. Dan Lanning, that's what he led off with, right? When he was really talking about his overall view on the team in this game. There was some good, there were some bad. And I think the inconsistency can certainly be brought to this run defense. But this is something that needs to be more consistent. I don't think we're going to find out a lot about whether this team has gotten more consistent or gotten all that better against Oregon State. Oregon State they're a bad football team. Okay, but here's the fact of the matter. This defensive line needs to be better. They cannot have that type of performance against Northwestern, against Penn State. We know Penn State has a really good offensive line. We know Penn State has one of the best running back tandems in all of college football. If you have a performance like that in Happy Valley, you're not going to win the game. Plain and simple. Penn State is going to be able to ground and pound and play this type of style that they want to be able to play. So over these next 2 weeks, this defensive line needs to be able to get back to that point. And there's going to be a lot of energy next week at Autzen Stadium. There's going to be a ton of energy when you go on the road to Penn State. And if it's as simple as that, then maybe they'll be okay. But overall, it's undebatable. They need to be better in Happy Valley. This is a run defense that needs to play more consistent throughout the course of some of these football games. Overall, I'm kind of in a little bit of wait and see mode. I recognize what happened on Saturday. I recognize there were some good plays, maybe some not as good plays. I know we're not going to learn much next week against Oregon State, but for me, it all comes down to Happy Valley. I think that's when we can truly take away exactly where this defensive line is and this run defense is. If Penn State goes into that game and they rush for 250 and they rush for 300 yards and they are just driving Oregon off the line of scrimmage, yeah, then maybe we can say, we got the same issues as last year, and then maybe we can break that down a little bit further from there. We started the show with it, and we're going to finish the show with it. The feelings elicited from Saturday's win at Northwestern certainly aren't the same feelings elicited from the earlier victories at Autzen Stadium from the Montana State games and the Oklahoma State games. And there might be a little bit of doom and gloom, which once again shows you the high expectations that this fan base has for this team. And yes, there are concerns surrounding Oregon and their poor performance against a lower tier Big Ten team like Northwestern, but overall, you can learn more from Northwestern's victory, than you can these other two victories. And there are more positives than negatives, certainly, to take away from the Big Ten opening win for the Ducks. I've got 4 positives that you can take from Saturday's win against Northwestern that really stood out to me. Let's dive right into it. Number 1, he's going to pick you up when you're feeling down, and his name is Dante Moore. It was clear early in the game, offensive line maybe wasn't firing off like they did in the first couple of games. This run game was not as successful as they had been against Montana State or Oklahoma State. And this game was, 10-0 midway through the second quarter? I mean, that is not a situation that Oregon has been used to early on in this season. But Dante Moore took it upon himself to provide the spark of the offense. Dante is proving that he's going to be consistently really, really good. When maybe in this game other parts of the offense weren't as good, he remained at that top level, which is exactly what you want from a leader. I feel Dante just lifts everybody up. He makes everybody better. That's a quality that the top quarterbacks in the NFL has. He makes these wide receivers better. He throws people open. He just does everything in his power to lift up the rest of the team. Some people might say that Oregon had like a B- or a C+ performance as a team, but if Dante is still playing at that A level, he rises Oregon from that C level to maybe that B level overall as a team. I mean, one drive that really stood out to me where he's like, okay, I'm taking this thing over. I'm going to drive us down the field, and we're going to extend this lead and really take a lot of momentum into the halftime break. There's about 4 minutes left in change or so until the break. Oregon has to go 89 yards down the field, and they do exactly that in 11 plays. That last drive where Kenyon Sadiq got that touchdown, he completed 3 passes of 20-plus yards, including the aforementioned 24-yard touchdown to Kenyon Sadiq as well. So he's raising up the level of play, and he's consistently playing really good football, making good decisions. And one thing I noticed in this game, okay, he didn't have maybe the cleanest of pockets. Like those first 2 games, and he had all day to throw. Everything was freaking perfect. There were some plays where Northwestern kind of pushed the Oregon offensive line back. He kind of had to twist out, roll out, make some throws on the run, and he's still making really good decisions. Balls are still really accurate. He's still playing with a lot of poise. I love the comfort that he's playing with right now, and I love the way that he's rising everybody's play right now in offense, and really the entire team as well. Number 2, we got to talk about De'Aaron Hill. I think De'Aaron Hill once again showed why he deserves more time in the backfield. Look, so Noah Whittington's out of the game, and the guy that they've been rolling with at number 2 in the backfield has been Jaden Lamar. He got a majority of the carries, but overall wasn't very impressive. I do not believe Jaden is a guy that you're going to line up in the backfield. You're going to run the ball 12, 15, 17, 18, 20 times. That's not what he is. Jaden Lamar is best when he's able to get out on the perimeter. Jaden Lamar is best when he's able to get out in space. I don't know if Jaden is like a complete running back in the backfield right now for the Oregon Ducks. When I look at maybe the most talented overall skill set, I look at De'Aaron Hill. I believe that he is the most explosive back on this team. I think he provides, even though Jaden Lamar has provided some explosive plays on the perimeter with his speed, I think De'Aaron Hill is just next level. I think like he provides your best chance to get explosive plays in the run game. Now, I know Noah Whittington, right, 59-yard touchdown to start things off against Oklahoma State. I certainly think he is there. But De'Aaron, it's just every time he touches the ball, he continues to show that he deserves more time. And Saturday against Northwestern, that 66-yard touchdown run was certainly another example of that. How do I think that the running back room should be going forward? Hey, Noah Whittington should be your number one guy. We'll see where his health stands going into next week, but it goes to De'Aaron Hill, I think, after that. Then I think it goes to Jaden Lamar, and then I think it goes to Jordan Davison as your short yardage back. I think that's the running back rotation that Oregon should really focus in on, and they've seen De'Aaron Hill line up in the slot. You've seen him line up in different parts of the field. Just get him the ball. When De'Aaron gets his hands on the football, good things happen, and you gain a lot of yards, and you score points. And that's the object of the game. So get 23 the football. That's certainly a positive that I took away from that. He's playing consistent football, like Dante Moore, where he's playing at a consistently high level. De'Aaron Hill is making the most out of his opportunities, playing at that consistently high level, certainly above the line so far. Now, here's I think, two more macro points that I want to get into. Saturday's game against Northwestern gives you an actual chance to evaluate where you stand. Okay? Like, the first two games where you're just utterly dominant, you don't learn anything about your team. Montana State is on a completely different level of football. Oklahoma State was just a bad team. And those were both at home in front of a raucous Autzen Stadium. Yeah, you did what you probably should have done against both of those teams. But now, being able to go on the road and being able to see, like, hey, maybe we weren't as good in this area. Maybe we weren't as good in this situation. It allows you a chance to really evaluate, hey, maybe this guy should be on the field a little bit more. Hey, maybe we don't see as much of that guy. Maybe that guy becomes a little bit more of a situational type of guy. It allows you to battle through some adversity.
We usually have 60,000 cheering for us. Usually, that's how it usually goes, but we're on the road. It's just us versus us, like always. But playing in a different environment, thunder and lightning, and windy, and just a lot of things going on. But overall, we came out with the win. It wasn't the best look, but we're gonna go back to the doctor. We're gonna learn. We're gonna better our mistakes, and that's the biggest thing from learning.
It was an early game, so we had to come out and wake up early, bring our own juice. That's what our coach told us, bring our own juice this week. So just going through adversity, just keep getting back up. If we fall back down, that's what they preach to us.
Handled it very well. I mean, we were very limited. We had 4 possessions, I think it was, in the first half. Like, we're very limited. And so when we bounced back and went and scored on the next drive, it just showed, like, we can bounce back. And we knew we were going to get hit with adversity. We didn't know when it would come, but it came that first drive. They came out there, and they were ready to go. But I feel like we handled it very well.
That's Dante Moore, Jerry Mixon, and Jaden Lamar. Look, it wasn't the most adversity. I mean, this was a team that was up 34-0 at one point in this game, but I think you're going to be able to take more out of this performance and learn more out of a performance like this than if you would have rolled Northwestern, maybe like I predicted, something like 52-7. And that's what these first handful of games pre-Penn State was all about. You need to be able to go out there, get a lot of guys on the field, find out who can be good for you, and learn how you can go into Happy Valley and get a win. What do we need to do to be able to do that? And you don't learn anything with that, with performances the first 2 weeks. Look, you love building up the confidence. You love getting a lot of people on the field. But at some point, you need some pushback. And I know people kind of view the pushback as a little bit of a negative. Hey, how did we get pushback? How did we get driven off the line of scrimmage against Northwestern? This is a positive because it's an opportunity to learn, and it's a little bit maybe of a wake-up call that they need to be ready every single week. And last thing, there is, and this is a positive, once again, it kind of goes with the point I just made, but there is a Dan Lanning reality check incoming. It's hard to motivate your team. Look, Dan Lanning is as good of a motivator as there is in college football. We saw that last week against Oklahoma State. But it becomes increasingly difficult to motivate your team when everybody's out there telling them how great they are. You're winning by 50. You're winning by 66 points. I mean, but then having a game like this allows Dan to kind of get into the team room, get into the locker room and say, yeah, see, we got a lot to work on. Okay, maybe you guys were knocked down a few pegs. If you want to be that championship team, we got to be able to continue to battle through these types of situations. So this allows Dan a motivating opportunity to keep this team grounded. I said this in the offseason months ago. This is a young team. This is an impressionable team. And when you get out to those big wins right away, especially with some of these young players, the heads can kind of inflate as to how good that they are. So being able to be knocked down a few pegs, I think is going to help this team a lot. I think as they approach that Penn State game, as they approach more difficult tests down the field. So it kind of allows Dan Lanning to kind of work his magic from a motivational aspect as well. So this was a game where it wasn't that A+ performance like we've seen earlier this season, but there were still plenty of positives, and we're going to learn a lot more from this game than we certainly did those first two this season. And that's a good thing. Like, last thing I'll say on this front, whether you're in a relationship or whether you're at your job or whatever it is, if people consistently tell you, oh, you're doing a great job, oh, this is great, and this is great, and this is great, when you know it's like, dude, I'm not the best in the world at this. I know that I can certainly take it to a new level. You know, you maybe get complacent if people keep on telling you that's good, that's good, that's good. But then when you get that feedback and be like, okay, it was pretty good, but you got to work on this, this, and this to be able to take it to that next level. And I feel like that's what this Saturday was. It was that feedback and saying, okay, you're really good, but in order to be great, in order to be championship level, you need to be more consistent flying off the football, firing off the football early in games on the road. You need to be better when maybe some of your top players out there running the football. You need to get certain players into certain positions. You need to be better defending the run and all of these things. So this was that feedback. This was that learning experience, I believe, going forward for the Oregon Ducks. Another fun edition of that show out west is in the books. Remember, Thursday, we are going to be previewing all things Civil War. Oregon and Oregon State going to go down 12:30 p.m. Pacific time of the Big Ten Network this Saturday from inside the walls of Autzen Stadium. We will talk to you Thursday. Until then, have a good one. I'm Ted LaRue. This has been that show out west.